Totally. So that goes kind of back to even my upbringing. My parents were super supportive. I still, I talk to my folks every day, if not every other day. And the more I think about it, and now that I'm a parent, I kind of feel those tones of them coaching me along. And I look back to the kind of the way they brought me and my siblings up. There's definitely very much a learning approach, a teaching approach that they, whether they knew it or not, that they kind of implemented and instilled in me. Um, Obviously, each sibling's going to pick up different things, but for me, um, I wanted to be around people. I wanted to learn. I wanted to teach and coach eventually. So they kind of put me around great people and coaches when I was a little kid. I had great experience, and then ultimately going into college and kind of pursuing it professionally was something that, again, I kind of got lucky where I was around really great teachers and coaches, and literally had that moment where I was around Bruce Burnett, who's the former head coach of Team USA and former head coach of Naval Academy Wrestling. And I literally had a moment where I'm like, I want to be like this guy. I want to do what he does for a career. And that's kind of what led me down the path. There's a ton, kind of a little bit generic, but my thing that I find most rewarding is just kind of watching the overall development of these kids when they come in, and really going back to the recruiting process. We meet them as high school student athletes, and they're kids, and so to watch the transformation, the maturity process, not just as wrestlers, but as student athletes and individuals, and as people overall. You're watching them kind of grow into adults. So I'm now in year 6 at Case, and we just finished up. Last year was my first recruiting class, was graduating. So literally got to know those guys again from the recruiting process all the way through to graduation, and now still keeping up with them as they're all into their careers now. And not just them, but their families. So their parents and their siblings are kind of a part of my family, and also, of course, the Case Western Reserve wrestling family. Definitely a tough one. I kind of hit on my parents, obviously having a huge impact on me. And that's not something I take for granted, and it's not something that's lost on me. I mentioned Coach Bruce Burnett had a huge impact. But I'd have to say, in addition to my high school coaches, my military school coach was Tim Alger. And he's a guy that connected me to the University of Iowa wrestling program, where I went to after wrestling for him. So he connected me to Coach Tom Brands, and he connected me to Coach Bruce Burnett. So, and again, I'm still family friends with him to this day. I call him for advice. We bounce ideas off each other. And here we are. I met him over 15 years ago now, and he's still having an impact on me. But again, I was lucky to have high school coaches who are Hall of Fame coaches in their own right, and I was just lucky to be around great coaches my whole life. Personally, I was a multi-sport athlete. I played soccer, I wrestled, of course, and I played lacrosse all the way from grade school through high school. And so I played baseball and basketball, gave those a try. But it seems just that kids are, that there seems to be a trend of kids specializing now more earlier, that's not something that I chose to do, or my parents, even mentioned as an option or an idea when I was growing up. I was from a smaller town, a smaller high school, so we all played multiple sports, and the teams needed guys, everybody to play multiple sports in order to be competitive. So that was just something that was ingrained in our culture of our town, that you were going to play multiple sports, whether it was football, baseball, basketball, football, wrestling, lacrosse, whatever it was. Everybody was going to play multiple sports. So I think now with more resources being available, and people more having their eyes on the dreams of college scholarships and even, maybe even making it to the pros, I think there's just maybe and also an uptick of crazier parents that want to chase those dreams through their kids. I mentioned it before, but thankfully my parents let me play. They let me wrestle. It was my sport, and they provided the resources, and they put me in the environment, but they ultimately stayed out of the way, which again, I recognize that now as a parent. I'm incredibly thankful for that. The most monumental event that I've been to was the 2012 Olympics. So that was in London. She only had tickets to 2 or 3 events. So of course we got to go watch wrestling. I went to a women's soccer game, which was insane, just electric. And we went to a track and field event. So 3 kind of different fields, but that was pretty inspiring. Of course, I got to point back to the 2010 NCAA Wrestling Championships, where I was on staff at the University of Iowa, and we won the team title that year. So to be a part of that season, that program, and to stand on the stage at the end of the year at the NCAA Finals with the trophy in hand was a pretty cool experience as well. I actually played college lacrosse, which few people know about me. I'm from Long Island. I mentioned I played lacrosse as a little kid through high school. And so after I was done with my eligibility for wrestling, I wrestled 4 years. I had 1 more season to compete, and so I actually played lacrosse after I was done with my wrestling eligibility in college.